Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Octavia Prosper. In the headlines, 2023-2024 national budget to focus on productive sectors. The 2022-2023 cruise season has been dubbed a success, and project implementation unit to be attached to Ministry of Public Works. The details of the headline stories and more when we return. Welcome back. The 2023-2024 national budget will focus on the productive sectors. The disclosure has come from Minister for Finance, Economic Development, Climate Resilience and Social Security, Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre.
I will be focusing a lot on agriculture. You heard the Prime Minister said we're going to get to 700 million of our GDP by 2030. So a lot of the measures is really in the productive sector, which is agriculture. A lot of the measures in terms of tourism, developing our product and trying to get more revenue from tourism. In terms of our small business, the government has done a lot in terms of small business. We have close to $40 million at the aid bank, and all this is just to provide assistance for the small and medium-sized and micro businesses. And lots of other different areas that but with all of this, we will not be sacrificing our social measures. So we always put the people first. So while we're making those adjustments, but we're not going to sacrifice the well-being of the people. We're not going to sacrifice the people's health. We're not going to sacrifice people's education. We're not going to sacrifice the people's housing. So those things will continue while we make adjustments to have a more efficient and so that we can get a better fiscal space and a little more comfortable as we function.
Dr. McIntyre says this will be a slightly different budget.
We have to consider the international circumstances and the international situation, the fiscal situation. We have to address a few things, but this budget will definitely be a budget for everyone. Everyone will have something to be happy about in this budget. But obviously it wouldn't be the typical similar budget to the past years, because we have to consider different stresses that we've gone on, whether it's from COVID coming all the way now, the war in Ukraine, and the different financial limitations and restrictions, and obviously the little financial gaps that we've experienced because of those shocks, those international shocks, nothing really due to us, but we are part of the international community and we have to adjust accordingly.
Increasing revenue while decreasing expenditure will be a priority for the Minister for Finance.
In this budget, there will be many measures put in terms of increasing our revenue, and we'll be focusing very, very heavily on our productive sector, because we need to increase our revenue. Definitely in this budget also, you will see certain measures that are meant to cut down on expenditure. So basically we want to make sure that the system can be more efficient. So if we have a more efficient system where we can cut down on our expenditure and boost our productive sector, where we can actually increase our revenue, so that we can be a little more comfortable in terms of our fiscal space.
Preparations for the 2023-2024 national budget are at an advanced stage, with submissions from the relevant ministries already in place. Dr. McIntyre says this will be a budget that everyone will be satisfied with, given government's track record of prudent fiscal management.
But we're very much aware of the situation we live in now, internationally, and we know the financial crisis that everyone is facing, not just Dominica, every single person, and even countries that didn't go for Eric and didn't go for Maria. They are struggling to stay afloat. But here in Dominica, we've got a responsible government, and we've managed to stay afloat, and let alone stay afloat. Actually, we've managed to even continue all our different productive measures and all our different programs that we've put in place so that the country can continue to be on the correct foot and a productive path for us in the future.
This is the first budget presentation of Dr. McIntyre since he assumed the office of Minister for Finance following 2022 general elections. Since 2004, Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit has presented 19 national budgets which has seen significant investments in social programs, healthcare, education, tourism, agriculture, sports, and infrastructure. There has also been reduction in income taxes and increases in CBI revenue. The 2022-2023 cruise season has been dubbed a success. The season closed on Tuesday, May 16, 2023, with the inaugural call of the Disney Magic of Disney Cruise Line at the Roseau Cruise Ship berth. To commemorate the ship's arrival, the Ministry of Tourism, through the Discover Dominica Authority, hosted a welcome ceremony aboard the ship to include a plaque exchange. On-shore activities organized by DDA included performances showcasing Dominica's culture, dress, and heritage, as well as a mini cultural parade and other cultural acts. The cruise passengers were also scheduled for numerous tours to natural sites such as Emerald Pool, Trafalgar Falls, and Meru Beach. The cruise industry has been on the rebound following the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in a stop of all cruise activity for a 16-month period beginning in March 2020. Based on preliminary data, the season brought 244,265 visitors, exceeding the 2021-2022 season by 71%. This performance also surpassed the pre-pandemic season by 29%. Chief Executive Officer of the Discover Dominica Authority, Mr. Colin Piper, stated that this season can be deemed a success for many reasons.
The 22-23 cruise season, we would have to deem it a success for a number of reasons, right? One is Dominica is always on the itinerary on a number of cruise ships, and that is because we offer something different. We're more of a rainforest and scenic tour and adventure, with things like river tubing and the like, whereas a lot of the other Caribbean destinations turn out to be sun, sand, and sea. So a lot of cruise vessels like to put Dominica on the itinerary. Now, I mean, we do have our challenges based on where we are in the Southern Caribbean, and so we don't get the cruise calls as often as we like. But nonetheless, 22-23, we had quite a few cruise calls, more than 2022, and even more than 2019-20, which is pre-pandemic.
He explained that one of the main contributors to the success of this season was the number of passengers who disembarked and participated in tours.
And we had more cruise passengers coming in as well, more cruise passengers getting off the ship and doing tours. And that's most critical, because that's where they leave money on the island, by taking tours, by buying from the vendors, all these sorts of things. So 22-23, yes, was successful because we surpassed last year, and we surpassed the 2019 pre-pandemic figures. And we're hopeful that 23-24, which will begin kind of late October, early November into April 24, will be just as successful, if not better.
Tourism stakeholders are urged to create new initiatives that will entice even more passengers to disembark in the upcoming season.
We continue to try to increase the number of calls and increase the number of passengers, and also increase the number of people who come off. And in order for people to come off the ship, we must continue to offer something new and different. So we want to call upon the tour operators and everybody who's a stakeholder in the cruise industry to look at how we can refresh, renew, and come up with new and different tours that would incentivize the cruise passengers to come off the cruise ship and leave some money here on the island.
One of the initiatives currently being undertaken by the Ministry of Tourism is the rehabilitation of natural sites. Mr. Piper stated that every year, focus is placed on one site to present something new to visitors.
The rehabilitation of sites is something that is ongoing, and the Ministry of Tourism is the leader in that regard. And I know what we have tried to do is focus and really try to do something new and different with one site each year, and make a meaningful impact, rather than looking at, doing a little bit here to every site. Having said that, you have to make sure that each site is operational and that can offer a wonderful experience to especially the cruise visitors that come in. And as you would know, there are some big ticket items that we're trying to do with the cable car system and some of these things that would incent and attract more cruise ships to come in and also more people to get off. So the process continues in terms of the rehabilitation of the sites and attractions, and we hope that each year we can at least have some marked improvements for the cruise ship passengers to experience.
Prime Minister of Dominica, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, says government plans to attach a project implementation unit to the Ministry of Public Works, Public Utilities and Digital Economy. He made this statement at his bi-weekly press conference on May 5, 2023. Prime Minister Skerrit says the project implementation unit will primarily focus on project management.
And of course, there'll be a project implementation unit that will be attached to the Ministry of Public Works that will deal with project management and project implementation, which sometimes is the major challenge for the government. Some things take too long to start, and when they start, they take too long to complete. And so the whole Ministry of Public Works is going to be reconfigured, where the Ministry of Public Works, the engineers and the architects will move away from designing. We'll do that. We'll use the private sector to do those things for us, and the Ministry of Public Works will be used more for project management, ensuring quality assurance.
He stressed on the importance of monitoring the progress of projects to ensure that deliverables are met in a timely manner. He says good project management is economical.
And ensuring that the contractors keep to the construction and planning codes in building. So we'll be more of a ministry that will deal with the project management, because project management is so critical to saving money. And if we manage well, then we can spend less money on some of the project, because the longer you spend on this project, the more money you spend on this.
This reform within the Ministry of Public Works is aligned with government's aim to build resilience into all sectors. Prime Minister Skerrit says the addition of the project implementation unit will address the challenges faced by the Ministry of Public Works. Parliamentary representative for the Wesley constituency, Honorable Fidel Grant, is satisfied with the progress of preparatory work for the construction of Dominica's International Airport. Equipment for the construction of the International Airport arrived in Dominica on March 4, 2023. Equipment has since been moved to Wesley, where site preparation works have advanced. Minister Grant is pleased with the level of work that has been accomplished over the last 2 months and the resulting benefits for his constituents.
If you drive through the village, it's practically a ghost town during the day, and that is because everybody is working. And there are a number of young men, they are both laborers, there are some skilled who are working on the geotechnical, so we have a number of young men. So it's not that they are only working, but they are developing a skill in terms of geotechnical surveys and testing, surveying, and it's a significant number of them. So you have those who are laborers, skilled, semi-skilled, geotechnical, and then you also have a number of them who are working at the lab. So they are getting a first-hand view as to what it is like and so on. So if they have an interest in that, we were hoping that we can provide them with an opportunity for studies in terms of scholarships and so on.
Minister Grant says that work on the concrete batching plant is nearing completion.
So that is almost operational, so to speak, because there are a lot of the equipment, a lot of the parts and so on. They still have a lot of work to do in terms of the concrete batching plant. So that is done on it's close to the airport, because as you would imagine that you would have to transport the concrete and you want it as close as possible. So we leased a portion of land from the AMA, so that is where they are doing that now. It's what is being described as a Chinese village. It's not a Chinese village, it's Chinese housing. So we have a number of houses that have been complete because we are expecting a large contingent of workers. So they have built prefab houses. So it's not permanent structures, it's prefab houses for residences, because the houses that they are in now, which were previously owned by persons in Wesley, is temporary. So they will be moving across to that temporary housing in the palm tree area in a short time, because most of it is complete, a significant part of it is complete.
The government of Dominica views the international airport as a significant stepping stone in Dominica's development. It is over 53 years since Dominica began exploring the construction of an international airport. However, construction has only been accomplished under the Dominica Labour Party administration led by Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. You are watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. A team from the Caribbean Development Bank is currently on island exploring the preparation of the Caribbean Action Resilience Program, CARE. The CARE program is a 5-year, €14 million initiative to support disaster risk management and climate resilience building efforts in CDB member countries. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, Mr. Reginald Sevre, says Dominica stands to benefit from the CARE program.
That program is basically to contribute in reducing the impact of climate change and also disasters in the areas that are prone to disasters, such as Dominica within the fray of the CDB. Hopefully, it will help us in developing governance mechanisms for disaster risk management, and also in setting up a basis for developing agricultural resilience. It is a project, hopefully once we complete it, it will provide up to $800,000 to the Ministry of Agriculture to implement DRM protocols and practices and set up the governance structure for that.
Government will also engage the CDB team in discussions on enhancing agro-processing while in Dominica.
What is the most suitable crops that we could really pursue in our agro-processing portfolio. We will explore ways in which we can attract financing for toloma, for cassava, and also based on our discussions with the Cubans last week, where we're going to explore the development of bioproducts, we're hoping that we are able to discuss with CDB the potential for financing these new areas for investments using science and technology in the agricultural sector.
The Caribbean Development Bank team on island is headed by the CDB's Agriculture Officer, Dominican Malcolm Wallace. Country economist for Dominica at the ECB, Peter Abraham, says the bank has set itself an ambitious target on realizing the doubling of Dominica's GDP over the next 10 years. The governor of the ECB said last week that while global economic growth had slowed down from 3.4 to 2.8%, Dominica was projected to record growth this year and next year in the areas of tourism, agriculture, and public infrastructure. Mr. Abraham believes there are areas of focus which can help achieve the goal of doubling the GDP in 10 years. Food and nutrition is one of them.
We speak about it a lot. We know the agriculture's impact on Dominica, and we are feeling that Dominica is poised to achieve the goal set by CARICOM of reducing food imports by 25% by 2025. If there's any country that I think, personally, in the region that can achieve this goal by 2025 is Dominica. And we want to see Dominica then continue to export to other islands. And that is why we say this is one of the areas we think can double the GDP or help to double the GDP for the Dominican economy by exporting the food that they produce, not only to feed themselves, but to feed us in the region of ECCU.
Renewable energy is another area of focus, which the ECCB believes can help double Dominica's GDP over the next 10 years.
Dominica continues to be the leader in this, in the OECS, in the ECCU. 25% of all energy generated right now comes from renewable energy. But we know what the geothermal has in store. This could easily go to 100% very shortly. And that is something significant because when you look at bringing manufacturing firms to Dominica, one of the key drivers of that is energy and the cost of energy. So if Dominica can get the cost of energy down, it becomes more competitive to bring these manufacturing firms. And that is a part of what we talk about transformational over the next few years. So renewable energy is high on the agenda.
Mr. Abraham says it's to be noted that among the ECCU countries, Dominica is the least reliant on diesel, which can be viewed as a plus. The other area of focus is that of the digital economy.
The digital economy is where the world is going. And if we're going to keep a pace to the world, we have to ensure that we are able to tap into this economy. Dominica is poised for this. You see mobile subscriptions, well over 100%, internet penetration, 70%. Dominica is poised, and we must tackle this issue now. The governor speaks about cyber. That's something that we have to be mindful of when going into the digital economy. However, we saw what happened in COVID. Some who may be reluctant to go into the digital world was forced to go into the digital world in order to survive. And we must be prepared. We must use the lessons from COVID to ensure that we tap into this economy and use this economy to the best of our advantage to ensure that we can, double our GDP in the shortest possible time.
Mr. Abraham says another critical area of focus, if the GDP is to be doubled in 10 years, is access to credit.
So what we've seen before the pandemic, we have seen a decline in access to credit. However, since the pandemic, we have seen access to credit. This is good news for businesses, for households. It means, therefore, that persons are recovering. It means, therefore, that businesses are expanding. And this is what we want to see, because we know there's liquidity in the banks. The banks are very liquid, so we want to see access to credit improve. And the governor will speak about some of the initiatives that we're doing at ECCB to spur access to credit.
Mr. Abraham says credit unions are also very critical in the larger scheme of things.
We know how important credit unions are to the Dominican economy. They are very much a big part of the ecosystem, and we have seen significant growth in the asset base of credit unions over the last year and over the last 2 years. And this for us is very significant because the credit unions would have done what the banks didn't want to do. They opened the branches where the banks didn't want to open the branches. They allowed more persons to have access to the ecosystem, and that is what we want. Financial inclusion is big on our agenda. We're just completing a survey on that to ensure that we know how and where areas to target going forward to ensure financial inclusion in Dominica and our region is very high.
Dominica is preparing to once again host international test cricket at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. The first test match of the Indian tour of the West Indies will take place in Dominica in early July. Minister with responsibility for sports, Honorable Oscar George, says government is leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the return of international test cricket is successful.
India is one of the largest, most influential cricketing teams in the world. So as such, we have to prepare, we have to ensure that all our I's are dotted, all our T's are crossed to host the mighty India. But we have done that in the past, so we know what to do. We expect certain things. We have put in place at the top level a ministerial committee made up of a number of ministers just to oversee the planning process for the games, and then just below them they will have a technical committee made up of various permanent secretaries and various technical persons from the Ministry of Sports and other ministries just to do the day-to-day work. And of course we have a local organizing committee which is housed at the Dominica Cricket Association, and their job is also very important to ensure that all the legwork is done and done in a timely fashion.
Dominicans are encouraged to support and patronize the match. Minister George says the usual lively atmosphere will be on display.
The Windsor Park, as we know, is a wonderful facility. Obviously, you will need some small upgrades, aesthetics, decoration, stuff like that ahead of the game. An important part is the outfield. There have been some concerns about the color of the outfield, but there's nothing to be alarmed. We have been doing some treatment to the outfield, removing all the unwanted grass. And so the contractor is doing a good job. As you can see now, some greening is coming back in the outfield, and we expect works to be completed very soon. So we have our outfield back to lush green to encourage cricket. So the preparations are going nicely. These committees, they meet regularly. We do site visits. We are in communication with the Cricket West Indies personnel. We're in communication with the local organizing committee to ensure that everything is in order. And of course, an important part of that whole cricket is the marketing aspect. We will take that opportunity to market Dominica as much as practically possible.
It is hoped that Dominican Alec Athanas will make his test debut at the match. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News production team, I am Octavia Prosper. Thanks for watching and stay safe.